Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 16th of 2023, and for those of you that don't know, Disney is now planning to release the official trailer of Snow White 2024 / the live action remake, if you even want to call it that, by around the holiday season. So we're aiming around November to December, right around that time frame is when the official Snow White trailer will drop. It was supposed to release at D23, and Disney really got, very worried and frightened about doing that, as they are making a lot of revisions to the overall movie itself through re-edits and restructuring the entire film from start to finish. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into what's going on with Snow White 24. Now, we've been talking about this for a number of months now, and we know that this movie is setting itself up for a disaster. We already know what happened with the leaked photographs of the 7 dwarfs, and that really was the beginning of everything. That's what really set off the general public. We know that it's not just people that go on the internet that are aware of the drama surrounding this film. It's just regular people, common moviegoers that don't really look into anything too deeply. They themselves are even aware about what's going on, and that really is bad for Disney. Now, one thing about Snow White 24 has a lot to do with the current cut of the film that's actually in a very delicate position right now by director Mark Webb. We know that they are trying to salvage whatever they can from previous, filming from back in summer of 2022 that started from March, ended in July. They're recovering a lot of footage to insert into some of the scenes that they're cutting. However, with Snow White 24 still going through much damage control, one major development has to do with their plans for the end credits scene for the film. Now, in the current cut as it stands right now, a end credits scene is still attached and does exist to the film that reportedly focuses on Snow White and the 7 magical creatures traveling up a mountain with hiking sticks. This is where they are slowly approaching another cabin that's up to the top of the mountain. In the distance, smoke can be seen spewing out of the chimney of the cabin. This is where one of the magical creatures actually leads the way and crosses an unsturdy bridge, with the other dwarfs / magical creatures and Snow White all the way in the back. In a shocking turn of events, this is when one magical creature breaks part of the bridge as his foot falls through the wood and through a portion of it, where they then safely move on later toward the cabin. This is where the leading magical creature knocks on the door of the cabin, and in the distance, from the perspective of Snow White, the door can be seen opening. Now, before I get to the next big piece about this, let me just say one thing about this, guys, is that we know that initially Disney was setting up a Snow White cinematic universe, and there's no doubt in my mind that this ending credit scene has much to do with the Snow White sequel, and it is. We'll talk about that in just a second. Now, the thing about the cinematic universe falling apart was a mixture of factors. A lot of it had to do with Gal walking away from the prequel movies, as well as Rachel Zegler getting let go from all of the other projects because of the controversy surrounding her, really forcing them to axe those projects and cancel them outright. And now they're focusing on just remaking Snow White altogether again. But so far, where it stands right now in the current cut, they still have this end credit scene intact. Now, this sequence in which they're traveling up this mountain is said to kind of mimic the Himalayan mountains, which is a little odd. And it makes you wonder to yourself, where really is this movie based in? Do we even know where Snow White is taking place? It's never really elaborated so far in the current cut, but let's get into the specifics about what's going on here with this specific setup and how it kind of holds a connection to a movie called Happily Ever After from 1989. Now, we'll get to that in just a second. Everything is going to connect and make a lot more sense. Now, as you all know, the 7 magical creatures range in different heights, ethnicities, and genders. I mean, this is the epitome of Disney embracing their DEI agenda in, I feel, the worst way possible, because they're all about inclusion, but they're not about inclusion, of course, when it comes to inserting dwarfs into Snow White. So anyway, moving onwards, this is where things get even all the more complex. This is when a female voice can be heard in the cabin and 7 silhouettes are seen inside the cabin with a sunset shining through the window in the background. As it turns out, this was a setup for the cancelled sequel to Snow White 24 that was going to introduce the 7 dwarfs' cousins, called the Dwarfs. Many of the Disney board members are already debating whether or not they want to keep this end credit scene since they cancelled the sequel to the 24 film anyway. This is an ongoing conversation happening right now, and even director Mark Webb is involved in the discussion. However, Webb reportedly wants to keep this end credits scene as it was very special for him to direct at the time back in 2022 when it was shot in studio. The entire scene is reportedly done by green screen and CGI techniques and was never shot on location. The only practical effect was a cabin set piece with the opening door scene. So again, 100% CGI, all green screen, and the 7 dwarfs are not really actually showed in detail. You do see their silhouettes, you hear one of them talking, and they're not really called the dwarfs, I guess, because they're not really, short in the scene. They are, much like the magical creatures, ranging in different heights as well. And I don't really know what Disney was thinking, trying to connect this to Happily Ever After 1989. That was a film, by the way, that Disney did not approve of happening because that served as a direct sequel to Snow White that went unapproved. Disney wanted nothing to do with that, and that's why I find it a little weird that they're kind of cherry picking from Happily Ever After and throwing it in here. Now again, they're inspired from the Dwarfs. They're not referred to as that, nor are they very similar in appearance. They're much like how the magical creatures are to the 7 dwarfs in 1939. Very different. But they are inspired from that, and we can see that what they're trying to do, or were trying to do, was to set up the sequel to 2024's film. Now, we talked about how the sequel was going to focus in on the resurrection of the evil queen, her evil brother, as well as the 7 dwarfs. And I'm not quite sure if you guys knew about this, but there was, yet again, an actual evil brother of the evil queen in that 1989 film. And I can see that's where Disney is cherry picking from. You can see the inspirational pieces. So again, it's interesting that they're keeping this end credit scene so far. I mean, anything can change, but so far it is still locked in the current cut of Snow White 2024 as re-edits are underway. And that's pretty surprising, to be honest. So again, director Mark Webb, he's under a lot of pressure right now through all of the cutbacks of the film, reducing the running time, really trying to enhance the flow of the story, and they're doing this by rearranging scenes as well, in case you guys were not aware. So anyway, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.